like to welcome our next speaker, Sergio. I'm going to kind of walk through some of his bio and really a lot of important. Oh, Rob, you are here.
Yeah.
Did I steal your
waiting until you returned. That's okay.
Well, welcome back, and Rob will introduce.
Yeah, but you could go for it. I don't know. I have like your official bio, but because I've known you for the better part of my marriage in the industry, I think I'll just introduce you directly. So Sergio is an accomplished cyber threat intelligence professional. He's the VP, currently the VP, that was very ominous. Like, you're currently employed. Anyways, you're currently the VP of intelligence at Dragos. But before that, he led up intelligence analysis and really the cyber threat intelligence piece over at Microsoft. And before that was the Department of Defense and intelligence community, where he was really a stakeholder in creating a lot of the ways that the US government did cyber threat intelligence, including on industrial control systems. Sergio is a pretty humble guy, but I'll note a couple things that are pretty relevant for the audience. Number one, when you talk about the early days of governments looking at cyber threat intelligence and doing things like attribution and understanding how these problems existed, Sergio was sort of the Hamilton reference of the guy in the room where it happened, as it were. So many of us in the industry will talk about Sergio in the context of being kind of the godfather of cyber threat intelligence, in the same way we talk about Sherman Kent for Intel. The other thing about Sergio is he is the least important, or I should say the second least, but it's the least important combination of the Caltagirone family, where Sergio's wife, Sherry, where he works as well, but it's really Sherry's baby, focuses on the Global Emancipation Project, which is the GEN, Global Emancipation Network. So GEN is focused on doing data analytics to identify human trafficking and going after some of the worst people in the world in cartels and gangs to free people. And Sergio and his wife and their efforts have freed, I think, a couple thousand folks now through the Global Emancipation Network. So it's pretty amazing to see the intersection of protecting people and industrial control systems is actual also literally protecting people and and freeing humans. One of the things that Sergio said to me years ago now was that, and it shocked me then, I think I was just too ignorant, and I'm glad he helped educate me, was that there is more slavery in the United States today than before the Civil War. And so it's really amazing the work that Sherry and Sergio do. But anyways, so what we wanted Sergio to talk about was really looking at threat intel. I think a lot of times threat intel gets misunderstood as here's some indicators in a feed, or here's some repackaged news. But he's going to go through some things we've been hearing a lot about. If you've ever taken my 515 class or heard me talk about the ICS kill chain, he's going to talk about that in construct with the diamond model, but also MITRE ATT&CK. MITRE ATT&CK's been used on the enterprise side for quite a while now, but now we're hearing a lot about ICS attack, or attack for ICS. So Sergio, without further ado, if you could take it away, sir.
Sure. Awesome. So thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here. The big thing is that the number one question I get all the time is, hey, we've got all these models. We've got the diamond model. We've got the ICS kill chain. We have MITRE ATT&CK. What do I use? Which one do I use? And so what I really wanted to do is take an opportunity for the community to highlight how OT cybersecurity can benefit from all three, and how you use them together is really, I think, the biggest challenge for most people is that they get taught these models, or they read these models, or they read about these models kind of in separation, without recognizing that that they're really the same thing. It's kind of funny. Going back to Rob's, I love the comment, Rob's Hamilton reference there. It was Mike Cloppert and I and Katie and Adam Pennington and Blake, like we all used to work together very, very closely. And so we actually came up with like this whole idea of cyber intelligence constructs. So the diamond model, the kill chain attack, and it all actually happened at the same time in almost the same room. And we just all kind of like took our own years and time to break off and develop our own areas. But there is no question that they're really the same thing, and you use them effectively together. And so really, if you talk to any of us who have been involved in these models, all models are wrong, some are useful. And that's really the kind of the crux of it all. But I really wanted to highlight how, because I think there's a lot of confusion in the community about how you do cyber defense effectively using them. So what I really wanted to talk about was that in OT, in an ICS environment, detection and defense are really hard. I mean, it's hard enough in IT. OT is even harder, and there's a lot of reasons for it. I don't need to go into a lot of those that you're all very familiar with, but it's a very difficult problem. It's difficult because OT is very different from IT. It's very difficult because we have different types of technology, different types of processes, different types of protocols. So we have that in and of itself. We just have the fundamentals of OT and physics and physical processes and how cybersecurity and safety work together, and how those are completely integral and intertwined in a way. And so that's a cybersecurity problem that isn't faced on the IT side. And so we have all of these issues in OT that make it a complex issue. And so the questions we're always asking are we detecting the threats? That's a great question. We should always be asking ourselves those questions. And our second question is always, can we defend and mitigate when it occurs? Because we know the threats are going to happen. We know the threats will be realized. It's just a question of what do we do then? And so I really wanted to talk through kind of what we're, that we have this gigantic chasm. And yes, I chose an 8-bit representation of a chasm on purpose. But really, the issue is we have cybersecurity best practice, and we have OT cybersecurity, and we have a little bit of OT cybersecurity best practice. It kind of stuck inside of cybersecurity best practice. And the issue is we have this gigantic chasm where these threats live, and that really policy, current policy, current best practice, current kind of approaches are not sufficient to gap this yet. And so what do we do now, right, at this moment? How can you kind of help address this at this moment? And so that's what I wanted to talk about, was that anytime anyone asks me like, hey, I got to do one thing, what can I do? And I'm always going to tell you, do best practice. Always just like 100%. Do what is the best basic practices you can accomplish. But that's not sufficient. And so I always suggest using an intelligence-informed strategy. The thing about best practice that most people need to recognize is that best practice is really the codification of lessons of bad things happening to people for decades. That's what it takes, right? Best practice is really decades of pain. As they say in the flight community, right? Every rule in flying is paid for in blood, right? That every rule so I'm training to be a pilot right now, and everything you do in flying because somebody died. And I feel like in cybersecurity, we follow a very similar practice in that everything we do is because somebody else had a really, really bad day, and we don't want to have a really bad day. But the challenge is that if you have a decade or more gap between best practice and what's going on in the world today, how do you get through that? The threats aren't going to wait for you to catch up. So I really recommend following what I call the intelligence-informed strategy. And so that is continuously maintaining and evaluating your detection against your specific model. So how we do this, right? The very basic approach is actually simple. It doesn't take a lot of your time. It takes some effort, but it doesn't actually have to take a lot. First of all, you have to know what you're protecting. You got to model yourself. You got to model your threats. There's a lot of work on threat modeling, There's some really good work on threat modeling in OT, consequence-driven approaches, things like that. So I don't need to go through threat modeling. That's a whole nother presentation in and of itself. But you've got to at least understand what your risks are, what the consequences are, what your assets and your environment look like, what your business, what your business drivers are, what you actually have to protect, what can you maybe let go or let diminish, what you have to protect, crown jewel analysis, all that is critical. So after you understand yourself, then you have to start measuring yourself against the threat environment. And so this is what I call measure and exercise. It's not just measuring, it's also exercise. You have to actively test your environment against your measurements. Are you actually protecting yourself? It's a great practice that just because you think you've got yourself covered, it's surprising when you actually exercise it to say, okay, well, we thought we had ourselves covered, but it was really only 80% or 70%, or we could only do this part of it, not that part of it. And what you get is, it's not just a checkbox exercise. It's not, hey, I got this covered, I got that covered, I got that covered. There's a lot more nuance to whether you can detect something or you can't. And that's also because you have asset changes and visibility changes and tool changes and all this stuff that kind of flow in and are independent variables from the actual, detection. And then the last thing is you have to continuously hunt. It's not, you can't sit on your laurels like, hey, I've got the best policy in the industry. Hey, I've got the best technology, that money can buy. No, it's not good enough still. You have to actively practice, test and hunt in your environments. Again, we're talking about a decade plus long gap between what we think we should be doing right now and where the threat is today. And so you got to cover that with really being proactive in this. So really, the key here is, one, using the ICS kill chain, right? The axiom for the diamond model kind of lays out the basic axioms of cybersecurity. Axiom for every malicious activity contains 2 or more phases, which must be successfully executed in succession to achieve a desired result. The ICS kill chain is one approach to mapping those phases. Not every threat follows the kill chain exactly. The kill chain is a nominal approach, meaning it's there to be useful. You can modify it and change it how you need it for an organization. I've never used any kill chain exactly as published. I've always had to add things or maybe remove things or add another, or kind of fix it. But, fundamentally, it's there to be used. And again, every model is terrible, right? It's broken, but it's also useful. And you should also feel empowered to modify models as it works in your environment. Then we take the diamond model, formerly called the diamond model of intrusion analysis. There was a diamond model before me. That was Porter's diamond model. But fundamentally, right, Andy, Chris, and I developed the diamond model, and its really entire job is to take a single event, which is what we were all focused on, was, hey, a piece of malware did this, or we had one IP address hit us like this, and really help us kind of understand and contextualize how we draw out behaviors and processes. It's really the purpose of the diamond model. It's to take the analyst away from the single event that they're generally staring at data for and get their mind into extrapolating out into a broader behavioral and process model. And that's in the diamond model. If you get past the first couple chapters, which I admit not a lot of people do, you'll get into the what we call the activity attack graphs. And there's an example on your right of, hey, here are various paths that can be traversed by the adversary to accomplish their objective. And again, it's, as you can see, it's layered on the left-hand side with the ICS attack kill chain phases, and then there's diamond model events in there, and they're linked together. And so that's kind of where you get all of that. And lastly, lastly though, it's really about getting to behaviors. It's about, that's the only way you can scale cyber defense. If anyone reads, the year-end review or year-end report for any cybersecurity company, for the most part, you'll notice that they'll list like, there were 1 million new pieces of malware a day, or, we saw 10 million new hashes this year, or something like that. Like at that point, you recognize very quickly, like, this is not a human problem. Like we're at the point of malicious activity where it's beyond us, right? And so when we get there, in almost every other human endeavor, what we've had to do is come up with a way of abstracting the problem set so that we can attack it at a more fundamental layer. And in cybersecurity, we call those our adversary processes and threat behaviors. And that is how we scale defense successfully. Let me talk about how you do that. So ICS attack gives us a map to doing that. Again, diamond model, kill chain, ICS attack. If you notice at the top of the ICS attack framework here is the ICS kill chain, right? Kind of, again, it's a modified kill chain, but it is the ICS kill chain. And the diamond model is actually layered in here. So underneath every single one of these tabs is the diamond model. It's how we've actually understood and expressed this behavior. So that's how all these things are coming together. It's not always obvious. And so now this is cool because, you know, what Katie and Blake and Adam and those amazing people over there, right, have come up with is this way of codifying behaviors effectively for us. And it's great because this was a problem that even in the diamond model, there's a footnote from, you know, I wrote the paper originally in like 2006. So the footnote probably comes from there. But it even says like the diamond model is not going to create a taxonomy of behaviors, but one needs to be created. It actually says it in there because we knew we needed something like ATT&CK. We just didn't know what it was or who was going to do it. So this is what we've got now. And so how do we layer all of this together? Well, let's talk about Electrum, right? So Electrum is the activity group that targeted the Ukrainian transmission station just outside of Kiev, and created, you know, using the piece of malware crash override. And right, so they were pivoting in through the data historian. And then they captured a whole bunch of valid accounts. They were able to move across the environment. They then did control device identification using, you know, ICS protocols, just using the tools and technology that we have in our own environments. They were then able to pivot again through valid accounts. They created a connection proxy out through the IT environment from OT. They then issued a wiper across the OT environment, across all the engineering workstations. They suppressed the alarms through the OPC by attacking the OPC server, so that the engineers thought everything was on fire, basically. So a lot of people think like the best way to attack somebody is to think that like everything's quiet. Actually, the best way to attack somebody is to make them think everything's wrong, because it also throws them into a panic. Defenders are always best when they're calm. If you also create defenders who are panicked at the same time, then you will significantly increase your amount of damage that you can cause and the amount of time that you can stretch your destruction out for, just coming from the offensive side. So, and then of course, you know, we talked about Electrum is, you know, then they did, you know, loss of availability through denial of service attacks, loss of control, through using IEC 104 against the controllers and so forth, right? And all of this is really important. And all of us, you know, there's going to be some people in this audience right now who are like, hey, Sergio, did you not know this was an oil and gas conference? Yeah, I mean, I forget where I am most of the time anyway, so that's not unusual. But the answer is that Electrum is an electric threat, right? It was an attack against a transmission substation. And, you know, we can also talk about how electric substations and oil and gas are pretty much coupled together. But aside from that, you know, what the heck are you talking about, Sergio? And the answer is, go back here. The answer is that it doesn't matter. That OT threats against electric are OT threats against oil and gas. We have this term that we call threat proliferation. And what it means is that adversaries build on each other, whether they're working together or not. And a lot of that is because our best practices, because we publish information about how they operate and stuff like that. And I don't want to throw anyone under the bus about, you know, whether we should or shouldn't talk about bad guys. We should, okay? It's better for us generally that way. But what it is that they also read that information and they learn. And so here, right, we in oil and gas, we have to learn about the OT threats in other domains, in manufacturing, in electric, and so forth. That's really important. And what we're extracting is not, you know, IEC 104. I better protect against IEC 104 because you may not be using that protocol in your environment, right? But you better be aware that you have an equivalent protocol in your environment that you're using. And raise your hand if you're using controllers of any type in your environment, right? If you are, then the exact same behavior can target you. So, you know, fundamentally here, what we really get to is it comes down to visibility and detection. You got to understand what you've got, and then you have to understand the behaviors, right? So jump hosts, you know, account masquerade, control device enumeration, alarm suppression, that's the same for every single OT environment in the world. And so I can extract these behaviors and learn from another attack in a different time, in a different place, in a different sector, and understand what I need to do in oil and gas. Again, that's what the diamond model, the kill chain, and the attack give us, is the ability to then step up a whole level and understand the threat. And so, if we were then to label, put electrum inside of a very nominal here DCS oil and gas environment, right? You could basically just map it out very simply, just exactly like the behaviors were in any environment. And so here, you can basically just kind of, like I said, extract things. And the key element here is, I love this. One of my old, my general manager at Microsoft gave me this phrase, and I'm going to give him credit, John Lambert, because I love it so much. I use it all the time, which is you control the physics. In OT, that's a doubly funny phrase because obviously we also own the physics physically. But what he means by that and what that term means is there's nothing that the adversary can do in your environment that you didn't let them do. Now, that's not saying that you can stop your processes from working, but what it means is that you are actually accepting all of the behaviors that are being allowed in your environment. And so you can take action to either stop or allow or defend or get visibility on those behaviors. You have control of that, not the adversary. You're in control. And that's what a lot of defenders don't realize, is that they are fundamentally in control of their own environment. A lot of them just don't exercise that control. So getting back to, back to the strategy here, right? So first you do is you map these behaviors across the kill chain. You map, and then you need to purple team this stuff, right? If you don't know what purple teaming is, go out and look it up, right? Red team and blue team working together. It's a great mechanism for adversary emulation and testing your defenses and visibility and so forth. And then, of course, finally, right, reduce mean dwell time. That's the time difference between when an adversary enters an environment and when you're able to kick them out. You should be measuring that for every bad thing that happens in your company, every single one, whether it's IT or OT. Your teams should be getting better every time. It's a great metric to track yourself as an organization. And so these are all the a lot of basics of what you should accomplish. And then last step in the strategy is find and evolve. You need to do continuous asset identification, exposure visibility gaps, right? Your environment's changing all the time. And so you need to constantly figure it out, right? You need to do continuous threat hunting. If you don't know how to threat hunt, the diamond model provides a huge area. There's over 700 strategies you can actually extract from the diamond model of how to do threat hunting. You need to, through threat hunting, you test your tools, you test your training, you test your visibility. Threat hunting is not just about finding bad stuff. It's also about testing yourself and making yourself better so that when it really happens, you're better than you were before. And last, of course, is using intelligence, right? Leveraging your competitors, leveraging your partners, leveraging your ISACs, leveraging your vendors, right? And gaining that intelligence and then putting it in your own environment, in your own models, again, to say, how can I control the physics around this problem? So altogether, right, that was the intelligence-informed defense strategy, how you use the diamond model, the kill chain, and the ICS attack framework all together, right? And again, it's not one or the other. You use all three. Whether you're using them or not, you're using them. That's the funny thing, because they're really just they're just explanations of what already kind of happens. So with that, I think if there are any questions, I guess I could take a couple.